Hey y'all, hey, and welcome to another session of Meditations with Marigny. Today we're gonna do a drive and chat or chat and chew. Um, if you like my videos, I'd love for you to press like. If you love them, I'd love for you to share it with a friend, and I would love for you to subscribe. So this morning, I want to circle back to the video that I posted on yesterday about the economic challenges that I believe that we are about to face and things that families need to be doing. But this time I want to tie it into relationships. And I want to specifically speak to and speak about those that are perhaps married in this economic time that is getting ready to come forth, like what that looks like. And I'll use my personal experience, and I'll also use a few people that I've spoken to, like what they did in the end. I don't think I could have did that. I tried, but I don't think I could have done what a couple of friends have told me that they did. So, in reference to the economy, if you go back and look at the video that I talked about on yesterday, I was speaking about families having to come back together, joint homes, joint households in order to make it. This current economy, especially, I don't know about where other people live, but where I live right now in Atlanta, this right here is just going to be very challenging for people to make it. When the layoffs, and I say when, because if we look at the economic trend of what's happening right now, the economy is not doing well. There is a falsehood that's there. And if they put a stimulus check out there, yes, that's going to make it look like things are doing well. To me, it reminds me of a screensaver, because a stimulus check is just going to be what the government put in place to stimulate the economy. It's a false mindset. But to get back to my point, Marina, you getting off, stay on point. So I'm looking at marriages that may have maybe having challenges, right? And one of the things that I looked at with my marriage is, because I had been married, that was my second marriage. I knew I did not want to go through another divorce. He knew that I did not want that. And so that's what frustrated me with him. Even, sorry, y'all, my camera moving so bad. With, him agreeing to the marriage. Like I could have just dealt better with it, with him saying, hey, I changed my mind, or I'm not gonna do this. Like, don't go through with something like that and you know that this person is all in. So, and that's another reason why I'm vetting so seriously now. I'll never do it again. The next person that y'all see me married to, you better know it's gonna be until death do us part. And it's going to be because he and I have talked about all the hard things. We've talked about the stuff that we are and we aren't going to deal with, tolerate. And I'm not just talking about from a fleshly standpoint. I'm talking about from a spiritual perspective of understanding what we are doing for the kingdom and what we represent. So it won't be no out. There is no out. You're going to have to get in and stay in, and you're going to have to figure out what you need to do. And I'm not talking about a toxic relationship either. I'm talking about a healthy relationship that's going to have its ups and downs, because it's two different people from two different environments who actually have to come together and become one. Okay, that's my little, I don't know what that was, but I gave it to y'all. So, in reference to the economy, stand together just because you're married and just because it's financially sane. You want to make sure that you are in a viable relationship. And in this economy right now, if people do decide to separate, and if they do decide to go in a different direction as far as a divorce, now I'm not advocating for that, because honestly, I tried to stay in my marriage. Like, I had convinced myself that since we had the financial component and we could make it. He took care of the house note. Basically, I took care of all the other things. We both paid our own car notes, but I contributed to the electric bill, the insurance, the groceries, those things. I basically did our vacations and stuff like that. I just convinced myself that it would have just been better to stay in that relationship, because the financial component I did not want to go through. And it worked for a minute, but that's not going to work long term. Because if you are a person where your social, emotional, your mental, and your intellectual vibe is more important to you than your financial component, is not going to work. Now, for a man and or a woman where financial components are more important, that will work. It will work because those factors are more important. And that is why at this age and this stage, those of us that are dating with intentions, and those of us are dating for the second and or third time, some people for the fourth time, if you're dating in that era, you have to vet the people that you're dating. You got to get beyond the physical. You got to get beyond the fact that they can make you laugh, or they have, some similarities to you as far as what y'all like, how you keep your house. You got to make sure that your foundational principles are the same, because those core values are what is going to hold you together when hard times come. Your core value for how you see marriage, your core value for how you see family, your core value for how you're going to deal with your adult children. If you marry somebody who they just, they like an open bank to their grown children, and then you marry somebody else that's like, no, I make my kids stand on their own. I'll help them, but I'm not going to continue to hinder them. And I'll be honest, that's kind of more of my space right now, because I tell my son all the time, you got 28 more years or 27 more years to make mistakes that I don't have. And that's because he's 27 years younger than me. He was born when I was 27. Um, but in other words, unless something tragic happens, children are going to outlive their parents, or unless, something happens naturally in life or whatever. But in general, speaking as an average, children are going to outlive their parents. And also, they have to learn to live within their means. So, you can't be a parent that's over here and you're saving, 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 and your kids are going out and they're living the social circle, and then they can't pay their rent. Well, is it that they can't pay their rent, or is it that they are living in a means that doesn't belong to them based upon social media and what is being projected? So, going back to, talking about the marriage component, do you stay married just because financially it's not a good time to get a divorce? Now, I talked with someone, and it just, in my situation, I looked up the statistics, and it said that during COVID, marriages, divorces were down, I think, like something like 47 to 53%. It was stabilized. And I think that also is because many people were shocked. A lot of people that might have been having affairs or going out and doing things, many of them found their love back in their household. They found that, we saw that the baby population was pretty high. That means that people was, instead of them going to work every day, they were getting it in, working other ways. So that's a good thing. But the other thing is that I want to go and look at what were the statistics in 2021 and 2022. I want to see what those statistics look like after COVID. Because during COVID, one of the things that I know took place with us is that was during the time we were having one of our heaviest challenges. And I remember specifically telling him, hey, I'm not going to be able to be locked in the house with you every day like this. This not going to work. Like, because we just were not seeing eye to eye. And at that time, he had one of the women. Matter of fact, had two. So part of my issue was COVID was going on. We're dealing with a pandemic. He was already required to come back to work, and then you're out here dealing with these other people. You don't know who they're around. We're dealing with a whole pandemic, and you do not have a cautiousness of not bringing that into our household. So I just look at it from a different perspective. Yes, I feel like we could have stayed together for the financial component. In the last couple of years of our marriage, it probably was that. It probably was more of, this is comfortable. I have my house. He got his space. I got my space. We can pay these bills. And we didn't have a lot of debt that we had created together. A house, 2 cars. We had a couple of little credit cards. But there were things that he did outside of the marriage that I did not know, things he didn't take care of that did come up later on. And in some ways, I ended up having to take the brunt of that financially. And I didn't even he almost made twice as much as what I made. So, but the bottom line is, I just wanted out of the marriage. So the economic portion for me was not as important. And that's what I'm saying to you. If you all are a type of person that you know that money is not more important to you than love, than compassion, than companionship, then make sure that you match with someone that has that same foundational grounding. Also, if you're in a marriage and you're going through that, try to seek some type of counseling. See whether or not your job offers any type of financial counsel, so that you will have something that you can use as a guideline. Use YouTube as a resource. There are plenty of people that are out here that do counseling for marriages and divorces and things of that sort, and they can give you some solid foundational principles. The downfall is that, when you go through a situation like that, you have to understand that you are going to have a setback in most cases. And that's men and women. And especially if children are involved, So this was more of just kind of a think about it type video this morning. It was not so much to say what you should or shouldn't do. It was just to get you thinking. Last night I was just very restless. I don't know. I feel like when the world is getting ready to go through something, I can kind of feel it in my spirit because I'm so connected to people. And I just can kind of feel the challenges that are coming forth. And it makes my heart a little heavy. I was so restless last night. I woke up like 3 different times. And just in my heart, just praying for people, praying for households, praying for marriages, because, this is going to be a challenging time for people. And if they aren't rooted and grounded in their own word, in the word of God, they have something that can hold them in place, then it will be challenging for many of us. So just be encouraged. Continue to pray about what areas that you need God to show you vision in. And then if you don't do anything else, choose to be happy. We choose what space or what position that we want to be in. And when I say we can't choose what happens to us in life, but we can choose how we're going to respond to it. And yesterday, my first lady, she said, if people knew everything that was going on with Marigny right now, she said, but she come through those doors every day, smiling, good morning, good evening, how you doing? And she said, and she takes what's going on in her life and keeps right on going. And I just feel like it ain't nothing else I can do about that, like if I could change it, I would, but I can't. So, I shed my few tears, and then I get up and I put my makeup on and I keep it moving. So for the most part, guys, think about what economic changes or challenges it might present to you if you are in a marriage or a relationship. Maybe sit down and try to see if y'all could talk about it. Sit down and see whether or not you guys could work out a plan, because that might be more feasible at this current economic time than going through the actual divorce and or separation. All right, y'all. Have a good day. I hope this information has been helpful for someone. All right, bye.